Hi, good evening, everybody. The organizers for this evening, DIPLOACT, Stand With Us Canada, End You Hatred and the Lawfare Project, Lawyers for a Just Society, Emmett Talks, and the LOJ, would like to thank Beth Shalom for hosting us all here, and that includes all the staff, TPS, and security personnel that ensured to make this event a successful one. We would also like to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us this evening. It is always special when we can be together and pull strength from one another. As we recognize International Women's Day, we honor the importance of female Jewish pride that transcends mere identity. It's a beacon of resilience, wisdom, and empowerment that has illuminated the path of countless generations. Jewish women have historically been a backbone of their communities, nurturing their families, faith, culture, and traditions, even in the face of adversity. This pride is not just about self-acknowledgement, but a profound celebration of heritage and the relentless spirit of Jewish women who have made incredible marks on history. From Deborah, the prophetess and judge, Regina Jones, the first female rabbi in 1935, and countless more that have been leaders in the field imaginable where Jewish women have exemplified courage, intelligence, and compassion. Our Jewish pride serves as a powerful counterforce to discrimination and adversity, offering a sense of belonging and strength. It encourages young Jewish girls to aspire, achieve, and continue the legacy. It's about recognizing the unique contributions of Jewish women to society and ensuring their stories are told and honored. This pride is a vital component of Jewish identity, fostering community that is inclusive, supportive, and resilient. In celebrating female Jewish pride, we not only honor our past, but also pave the way to the future where Jewish women continue to thrive and inspire. This year, for International Women's Day, there are 14 women currently being held captive who need to ensure we continue to raise our voices and be those leaders together. We recognize them and say their names. Noah Argamani, Karina Ariev, Agam Berger, Shiri Bibas, Amit Buskala, Emily Damari, Liri Elbag, Carmel Gatt, Daniela Gilboa, Romy Gonen, Naama Levy, Daron Steinbecher, Arbel Yehud, and Eden Yerushalami. Tonight, we have 3 incredible speakers here with us who have done everything in their power to protect our right to exist and battle against the terrorist forces that wish to see our extinction. Nir Yosef, Ori Itzaki, and Abi Volkovich, thank you for being here tonight to share your experiences with us. Together, we all work together to end Jew hatred. Without further ado, I bring you DIPLOACT.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you so much for the warm welcome and to all the organizers that helped make this event happen. We're very, very excited to be here. So we're DIPLOACT. As said, my name is Abi Volkovich. With me are Ori and Nir. So what's DIPLOACT? DIPLOACT is a non-profit organization that deals with doing public diplomacy around the world. DIPLOACT has a training program for university students in Israel, in almost all universities, Our participants usually come from the army, some of them were in special forces, or are connected to some form of public actions. We do a course for a year on how to do public diplomacy, how to do activism online, and we come up with creative ideas on how to improve the image of Israel around the world. We'll get to one of those creative ideas in a bit. And so us here today is one of those initiatives, which is the delegations. And we're sending reservists that have been on the battlefield or have been in intelligence to do these things. But it's important for me to highlight what a reservist really is. It's people just like you, having their normal lives, vacationing, going to work, having really just a normal life. And every now and then throughout normal life, you have some training of a day, a week, a month, and you prepare for the worst. And unfortunately, the worst happened. And Ori has a... Now, I don't know if you can see, but on the top it says October 6th. It's the day before in the Philippines. Literally singing songs of peace, enjoying life, praising life. And then we have October 7th. We've said it before October 7th, never again. What they did to our people back in World War II in the Holocaust, the hatred they had towards us is terrible. And never again is now. Hamas terrorists, this ideology, it wasn't just against Israel, it was against the Jewish people. And just to get an idea of an aerial view of what really occurred, here we can see the map of the Gaza Strip. You can see the kibbutzim, the crops. That's on October 6th. This is on October 7th. Just 24 hours difference. All the black is smoke from burned crops, from the missiles that went on. And the invasion really caught us off guard. 6:30 in the morning on Simchat Torah. Now they didn't just attack with missiles, and we're used to missiles, right? They also attacked with a very, very strong ground invasion. And I'm doing a brief overview because I'm not sure who saw, who didn't, and it's important that we're all on the same page. As you can see on the top left, security camera of a kibbutz. After the missiles and everything, some of the residents wanted to leave. The Hamas terrorists ambushed them and hid in the side to wait for them to open the gate. And once they opened the gate, they actually were able to ambush the kibbutz. They went in with their AK-47s. And here you can see a GoPro footage. And there is so much GoPro footage for the world to see because they were proud and were sharing this with the entire world. They not only attacked and killed, they also decided to kidnap. It's been 5 months today. We are March 7th. This was October 7th. So it's 5 months since Kfir Bibas, 9 months. Or he was 9 months then, but he actually celebrated, if we can even call it a celebration, in the Hamas tunnels. And we want all our hostages to come home. Unfortunately, sorry for the graphic description, but there's sexual abuse, not only for girls, but also for guys, and there's testimonies to this. And if we look at the numbers, it's the third largest attack, a terrorist attack in history. And in terms of the actual, if this were to have happened in the United States, per capita, the equivalent would have been 40,000 people in terms of the population equivalency. And again, this number, the 1,200, it's not 100% accurate because there's still people who had burned bodies, and the forensics information is still not really final. Now, not only did we have some celebration in the Philippines and Israelis coming from all over the world, we had a celebration really close to the Gaza Strip of the Nova Festival, techno music festival where young people our age, I have friends that were there, just celebrating, having a good time, and unfortunately the booms from the music turned to booms of missiles and gunfire, and you can see the aftermath and also the cars that some people just ran and left their car doors open. A terrible, terrible scenario. And some of them were also kidnapped. 134 hostages are still there, and we want them to come home as soon as possible, and also for soldiers to come home and to be able to continue their normal lives. With that, I'm going to give it to Ori to share a little bit of his experiences of actually serving in Gaza, and I'll share a bit of my story later on as well.
Hi, it's so good to see you all. I must say, just a few hours ago, we came back from Habayit, and we initially came there to support the community, and I must admit that we ended up being so empowered by the strength of this community, and I do recognize some familiar faces from Habayit, so first of all, thank you for that. I think you're also our soldiers abroad, outside of Israel. So I will talk about my service in Gaza. I'm 25 years old. I'm a computer science student. I served in the last 4 months in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, in the war. And I will show you some pictures and some experiences from the war. And so we celebrated Hanukkah in Gaza. Literally, banu choshech legaresh. We put some light to remove the dark. And on the top right corner, that's an operation. I don't know if you've heard about it. That's the operation of the humanitarian corridor, operation that the IDF, the State of Israel, held in order to let all the civilians evacuate to the south. The IDF wanted to create a clear space where it can operate with minimizing the civilian casualties. So, I mean, as I speak Arabic, I was a part of this operation. We helped all the civilians that wanted to evacuate safely to the south. Which brings me to the form, the one you see right here. That's the spirit of the IDF. I don't know if any one of you, maybe some of you have served in the IDF. This piece right here, this paper, is a form that every soldier gets upon its drafting to the IDF. Before you sign up the uniform, before you sign on the weapon, this is what you get. And just so you have a feeling of this paper, let me just read one of the values. The human life. The soldier shall always act with reason and caution, bearing in mind the supreme value of human life. In combat, he will endanger himself and his comrades to the extent necessary for the fulfillment of the mission. Now, that's just one of these values, but this form is our moral compass. That's the set of values that defines us, the IDF soldiers, and for me, I think that sets us apart from different armies. Because at the end of the day, armies were established and meant for a pretty dirty job. But these values are what keeps us safe from the evil in the world. Which brings me to the charter of Hamas. You can see it right here. They're not shy of it. They put it out loud, like they did on the 7th of October, with their GoPros, filming everything, all the atrocities they committed in the 7th of October. They call for the annihilation of the Jewish state, to the killing of every Jew in the world. Now, after you've seen the spirit of the IDF and the charter of Hamas, let's look at the unit that's supposed to bridge and reconcile between these two opposites.
So this up here is Coral. We're currently DIPLOACT on our second half of the delegation, but on the first half, when I was in the States, I was with Coral and Eldar. And Coral, if you see this symbol here at the top, that's the COGAT unit, which is the unit that is in charge of coordinating the corridor, the civilian corridor. here you can see in the video on the left, this is the Erez crossing. You might hear that, oh, it's an open-air prison. It's actually not an open-air prison. This is a Palestinian student leaving through the Erez crossing before the war to actually go and study abroad, and it's coordinated through this unit to get all the work permits, to get student permits, and to actually be able to fly abroad, and Palestinians had access to Israel. Now, if you look at the Erez crossing today, Hamas has such little regard for their own people that they destroyed the main point of access for their own people, which made having proper humanitarian aid and having proper help from Israel that we provide for them even harder. For them, ultimately, PR-wise, makes life a lot better. It makes the world hate Israel more, but it exists, and it's very important to understand that there's an entire unit dedicated to minimize civilian casualties and coordinate the things that, there's a lot more information on her whole spiel of officers speaking with individuals in hospitals and having the conversation with them to evacuate, etc. But she's not with us here today, so we'll continue on to the intelligence side of things, because that's also a very important aspect of our operation. So please.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's good. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Nir. Today I'm a computer science engineer. I work for MasterCard. I'm an intelligence officer, and my job is to ensure that all of us and all of the soldiers that go into Gaza, also citizens. You're not hearing me now? Better? Yeah, good. Okay. So my job is to make sure that these fellows who go into Gaza, the people who are the citizens of Gaza, they're safe. We gather intelligence. We use complex systems to make sure all the information we get, and it's a lot of information that we either find on the ground or we get in all kinds of sources and ways, to get it to our soldiers in the field and make sure they're safe. And also to find the terrorists and the people who want to destroy and kill us, get their locations and understand exactly where they are, and get it to our soldiers as fast as possible. The other thing that I'm in charge of, or that I created on October 7th, October 6th, it was like a regular day for me. And as soon as the October 7th started, I called my commander, like every other soldier, and asked, hey, can I come to the army and help out? Which is exactly what I did. And as I got there and I helped and I was in charge of all the systems, I tried, a lot of my friends, they asked for information and about the conflict and people that I knew abroad. And I'd like to tell a small story that happened to me while I was in New York. I was in New York, I was studying acting. It's one of my passions. And this girl comes up to me and she shows me a tattoo she has behind her ear. And I see like the country of Israel right here behind her ear. And she asks me, do you know what this is? And I tell her, yeah, that's Israel, that's where I live. And then she says, no, it's Palestine. So I was like a little bit confused, and I went home and I decided I want to create a notebook which has anti-Israel claims or anti-Zionist claims, however you want to call it, and the answers to how to explain those claims, how to explain why those claims are not correct. And that's why I created something called the Israel Response, which is that notebook that I created in New York for each and every one of you and every Jewish person in the world. So we're going to watch a small clip.
Explore the Israeli Response website, a powerful tool against anti-Israel claims. Search claims with ease, find concise responses, and delve into details with additional facts and resources. Spread awareness by sharing claims with your family and friends on social media platforms. The website supports multiple languages, including English, Hebrew, Arabic, Spanish, and French. Share this valuable resource with your network to empower yourself and others to contribute to Israel's Hasbara efforts.
Can we bring it up? Can we bring the website up? So this is the Israel response. I think we started creating it on October 10th. I was the first person who worked on this project. Today we're 20 people working on this project. We have 5 teams. We have a social media team, a development team, a lot of people working on it. And basically what you can do and how you can help me is to make sure every Jewish person in the world or everyone supporting the Jewish community knows about this website. Basically, you can search for anti-Israel claims. Let's just, for example, look at this one. Israel targets UN workers and infrastructures in Gaza. You have a small response to the claim, and you can go in. There's a lot of information once you go inside the claim, and you can read about it. There are connections to, it connects to other claims. You have photos, videos. You can even add edit suggestions for the claim. There are we have a team working only on the resources to make sure everything is reliable. People who know more about the conflicts, and you can search by tags. People can add more information to it. So we also support like around 15 other languages. So this is a very important project. We have an Instagram page, all the other pages called the Israeli Response. So please make sure everyone knows about this website. And yeah, that's me.
Hello? Okay. I think this is louder, so. Okay, so back to me. So as I said, Abi Volkovich. If you didn't realize already, from my English, I'm not originally from Israel. I'm originally from Mexico City. I was born there in the Jewish community there. We're actually about 45,000 Jews, believe it or not. When I was young, my parents decided to make Aliyah, actually half Aliyah. There's no direct flight from Mexico to Israel, so we had a bit of a layover for about 12 years. And the layover was actually here in Toronto. My neighbors are here today, friends from school. So I grew up here in Toronto, went to Associated Hebrew Schools, went to Earl Hague, went to the village shul across the street. When I finished high school at Earl Hague, we had the Jewish Student Union with NCSY, and I finished high school and I decided to take a gap year to Israel. And on that gap year, I decided to make Aliyah and become a lone soldier, which basically means my parents stayed here and I went to live in Israel alone and joined the army. To my surprise, one day in the middle of basic training, they called me saying that they're also making Aliyah. And for those that don't know, there's a lot of benefits, financial and also in general benefits for lone soldiers. And so them coming actually meant they would take away these benefits from me. So I was like, you want to wait? Maybe I finish the army first. But no, they ended up coming, and it's honestly a blessing. I have my parents there, my siblings there. Now I want to talk about, I mentioned before that we're reservists, and back 50 years ago, we had the War of Yom Kippur, where we had the front on all fronts. And I want to talk about specifically that, the fronts that we've been facing. I actually was facing the front in the north, so October 7th, I was by my parents for Shabbat, for Simchat Torah, and called up to my unit, and we went to the north where we were getting our gear, and again, you can see reservists. I wasn't kidding in terms of saying it's people just like all of you. This guy's 42 years old. He has a little girl who's 16. So it's of all ages, really, and you can volunteer even further. Now, we were lucky that our enemies were not so coordinated. So instead of actually having a crazy attack in the north of an invasion, all we had was extra strong guard duty. So a place that you'd normally have 100 soldiers on the border, we ended up having 1,000 soldiers. We were preparing for the worst, preparing for the possibility that there would be an invasion. And so for the whole winter, a lot of rain, a lot of cold, we were here in these trenches where we dug these trenches ourselves because we were afraid that they maybe would see us and hit missiles to the machinery if we need to dig holes and stuff. So we dug these. There's another trench that we dug. And I mentioned that we could be a target if we have machinery, but we are still a target regardless because they're constantly sending missiles since the beginning of the war. Just so you get an idea, these are some trees that got a bit of the shrapnel from these attacks. And this is Hezbollah, another enemy that has been joining the game this whole time. So that's another front. But I want to touch a different front. And we as soldiers, we have weapons, we have training, and it's important for everyone to understand their training and their weapons that they have to face their front. So the front I'm really addressing is the front that you guys have here, and the reality of facing the anti-Semitism and the hatred towards Israel. We were just at the Bait a couple hours ago, and it's amazing to see the unity of everyone. But I want to highlight, I'm a photographer. So this was my Instagram page right before October 7th. I do diving and surf photography. And so I took this tool that I have of photography, and when we finally got our phones, I started making more Instagram posts and talking and speaking about what's really going on to try to spread my reality online. And this is something, not specifically photography and speaking, but everyone has their own tool and your own ability to make an impact. And it's important, as soldiers, Ori mentioned it before, ultimately we're Am Israel, we're one people. So we have soldiers in the IDF fighting on the ground, but we have also soldiers fighting this anti-Semitism war. Ultimately, right now they were attacking Israel, but you saw it in their charter, it's all Jews. So we need to all be strong and be reinforced. So these are just some sequences of images that I took my camera with me into the northern border, so just through our training exercises, through guard duty, and one, to document it for my comrades, but also to really share it with the world, the reality of what's going on. And so where does this really address all of you? And to address that and how you can make an impact, I want to discuss an interaction where actually a friend of mine knows another individual in this conversation.
People to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars. Our children will play one day, one day, one day. Guys, we gotta stop this violence. This is crazy.
So just to highlight all this, we'll go back in time 2.5 years ago to 2021 for the Shomer Chomot operation that ended up happening, where our neighbors decided to also cause a little bit of a party. I was in reserve duty for a month in the West Bank, guarding, and it happened to be that that's exactly when they did a shooting attack, and everyone else in the area, also in Gaza, started sending missiles. And we were in charge of finding the terrorist that we were in charge of finding the terrorist that committed these attacks. And to that story and the last frame that was on there, which is they had just shot missiles from Gaza and hit their own people. And even today, 1 in every 3 rockets hit their own people. Again, zero regard for their own people. And to that story, I got a reply from I don't know if I'd call her a friend back then, specifically from this message, but someone who saw my story called me brainwashed. So, how would you react? There's many different ways of reacting. I'm actually living it and seeing it. And I want to address important traits when having discussions. And to do this, first I'll mention them: patience, knowledge, and kindness. Essentially, you have to understand who you're speaking to. I knew I was speaking to someone who has a relationship with me, knows me prior, and knows I'm a normal student in the TTSB or whatnot. So I have a way of maybe changing her mind. So I decided to open up the conversation and get into the conversation with her, showing some kindness and actually telling her my reality, that my roommates are actually at our house sleeping all together in a bunker because of these missiles. So we opened up the conversation and opened it up a lot, actually. So I wrote an essay responding to her claims with sources, obviously. Then she wrote an essay responding to my thoughts, and I wrote a longer essay. Now, mind you, I was in reserve duty, so in between guard duty, I had a bit of time to put thoughts together and look up on Google and whatnot. But thankfully, you guys have the Israeli response, so it's a good tool to really utilize if you ever encounter this type of scenario. Now, I'll just like to highlight at the very end, just keep in mind we started with brainwashed. And then we get here. I, like most people, do not love to admit when I'm wrong or have misspoken. Definitely jump to conclusions. I'm sorry. I'm now educated further on the subject. Then she goes into a lot of the claims, how she didn't actually find it in Canadian news. But she's now more educated. And she then says, I know it's not your job to educate me on the subject. And it's true. Back then, it wasn't my job. Today, it is my job. But she's saying, please stay safe. Now, again, every time I present this, it gives me the chills because it gave me a lot of hope. Because I'm no longer brainwashed, and I turned this individual that was maybe hateful. And hold this slide for a second. It's important to understand that in the world of Israel advocacy, we have this concept of the street light, where you have the red, the yellow, and the green. The percentages are arbitrary, but let's say 5% are against us, 90% are in the middle or don't care, and 5% are in favor. And I'm assuming that's who we're speaking to today. For each specific audience that you encounter, there's a different way of talking, and there is a point to every audience, even the 5% against us. Now, at first, she might have seemed to be in the red, and slowly into the orange, and then ultimately into the green. Because I told her, it actually isn't my job, but it kind of is, because the world media has an impact on my reality in Israel. So I take it upon myself to really do this and share the realities and share what's going on. So it is very important for me to share this, and I encourage you to share this with others and share your experience of our conversation, how it was actually very meaningful and productive, and have some sort of a ripple effect. And I assume in all those years, again, this was 2.5 years ago, I assume there was a ripple effect. But my assumptions are confirmed because I didn't have my phone for the first month of the war, but when I finally opened up my phone, I see this message. Hi, Abby. Wanted to say I'm sorry, and I hope you're staying safe. I hope your loved ones are safe as well. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation above in the last week. I'm not proud of the very ignorant and uneducated stance at the beginning of our conversation. Thank you again for educating me back then on what's happening now. Words cannot describe how sorry I am. I know this won't change anything, but I want at least to send my support. My thoughts are with you, and I'm not religious, but prayers as well. Again, I'm not sharing this to boost my own ego. I'm sharing this to really show some hope that it's doable. It's od lo avda tikvatenu. Even if people may seem in the red, if we don't rise up to the occasion to speak up for the values that we have, the reality and the existence of the state of Israel, our indigenous homeland, unfortunately, our enemies will potentially take it a step further, and the West may be next. I really, really pray that this won't be it, but it's critical to not refrain or hide our heads from these conversations, but to really rise up to the occasion. Again, patience, knowledge, and kindness. Today, you heard a little bit about our own stories, hopefully providing a little bit of knowledge to that tool belt, and you guys can use the tool belt that you have available, the Israeli response, and there's also a lot of different organizations that are accessible, because ultimately it's the Israeli story that's you guys, us, it's Am Yisrael. People forget that the Jewish people, before Judaism was just a religion, we were a people first. So it's important to stay connected no matter what your level of religiosity is. We must all fight for each other in the same way we did training to become soldiers on the ground and professional soldiers defending the state of Israel. It's important that all Jews around the world do that training to be able to fight the other front that is upon us. So thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure to be back home. And here you guys have some of our Instagrams if you guys want to follow along and stay connected and learning what we're doing day to day, as well as DIPLOACT. There's also a QR code over there. If you missed the previous slide, we've been doing a lot of content about what's going on, and it's really easy, shareable information that you guys can share with your friends. And now we'll open up for questions. So we'll get up here, and we'd love to hear from you guys. So thank you. Maybe we can even pass this mic around for questions, and then we'll keep this one for answering. So, questions? Yes, 1 second. Okay, I'll just repeat the question. I think that'll be easier. So the question was, what does Israel need from us, from the community? Very, very good question.
A lot. We need
A lot. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, for sure. So I think Israel is very strong, and I think, like, now closer. I really don't want to put this on my mouth. Wait, is this? Oh, this is so much better. I'm keeping this one. You'll have the other one. Yeah. So we need. My thoughts are okay. These are my general thoughts. We're fighting a very tough war in Israel. It's a very tough war, but we're very strong in Israel. Okay, we have our people, we have our army. There's another war that's happening all over the world, which is the war of Israel advocacy and getting the support of the world. This is a very, very tough war because we're only 15 million people, 15.7 Jews, and there are so many others, 1.9 billion Muslims and people who are usually anti-Zionists who don't want the state of Israel to exist. So basically what's going to happen is that we see the numbers are going down. It was used to be, for example, in the States, 85% support in the country of Israel. But we see the things deteriorating, and people are saying, okay, no more military support for Israel, for example. So what we need is everyone to speak up. We need everyone to go to the rallies. We need everyone to help. We need everyone to be on social media and spread the word and convince, let's say, the orange, okay, in the headlight that Avi was talking about, the orange people that we are the people, we're right, we're the good sides, we're good people, because that support is super important for us, because if at some point the anti-Israel support is going to be very, very strong, what's going to happen is there might be an American president that is not pro-Israel. We might lose support in Israel, and this could be a disaster for Israel, okay? If we lose the military support to Israel, if we lose the general public, the love for Israel and that they have, and if they think that we are the bad people, it's going to be very bad. So we need everyone to speak up. We need each and every one of you. It's critical. We're not many. And we need things. We have so many projects going on to use the minds of the Jewish people to get to many, many more people. Because we're only a very small amount, we're only 15.7 million Jews, we're trying to create mechanisms to get to more people. That's one of the goals of the Israel response, is to be a database for organizations that they can use the data in that database to spread to millions and millions of people and get to more people, okay? We need volunteers, we need each and every one of you. I can't stress that enough.
I think just to jump on that point, I felt, because I grew up in a very Zionist home, that in order to become part of the Israeli society, I had to do the army and serve and defend because I could. There's a saying in Hebrew, tzarich galgal, ani galgal. If you need a tire, I'm a tire. And so I think that's something to write on. Unfortunately, I see a lot of apathy specifically in the US and Canada, because it can be easy to hide among the society. Ultimately, we're white passing, but we are Jewish, and the world and our enemies will remind us that. Even when you're Jews for Palestine, the world will remind them. So it's important to be ready ahead of time before it gets to our worst nightmare, if it gets to that. And I hate to bring chaos and that kind of thought, but it's important to, regardless if that crazy horror story that we're imagining could potentially doesn't come, having that unity and having that connection can only help us. So it's important to rise up to that occasion, for Jewish education to not only be religion, but to be our identity as a people and our connection to Israel, to re-strengthen that. I personally feel, especially, like, I can specifically talk about this community. I think, in a way, it failed to connect the connection of my Jewish identity to Israel. I think I personally got that from my parents. But I think we need to either bring it back to our homes and everyone within their kids to really increase that connection, or demand it from the education system, the Jewish education system. You know, we pay so much money for it, so that connection should be there. And just to, pinpoint, I hate to point fingers here, but it's been very difficult as speakers to actually go to Hillels in Canada and in the US, because they want to give a home for all Jews, and some Jews are against Israel, or against Zionism, so it's a home for Jews. And so that destroys my thought, and again, these are my own views, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but I think that identity needs to be reconnected, not only in times of war when everyone donates and everyone's with us, but it needs to be super strong, a constant connection to our identity, understanding why it's Ledor Vador and why every holiday we've been saying Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. It's understanding that it's not just a code that we say for the celebration. Yalla yalla, they tried to kill us, let's eat. Let's not make another holiday where we just say yalla yalla, they tried to kill us and let's eat. Let's say a holiday where we were strong, we defended ourselves, let's eat. And we need to be strong together to be able to have that. Again, a very good question, and I don't think we can give a satisfactory answer to it. But I'll do my best, and if you want to add something as well. I think not enough. First of all, that's my first small response to it. But what they are doing is the IDF spokesperson unit, and for example, I'm sure you're all familiar with Elon Levy. Anyone who is showing a promise and showing that they're moving towards that specific goal of helping within our narrative, there's organizations and also government impulse to help those voices grow. And so I think it needs to get a lot more funding. But again, we're in a democracy in Israel, so in a very crazy electoral democracy that happens every too often. But that's more an internal issue that we need to see where we address all the funding to really support those things a bit more. But yeah, it's definitely something that we got a slap in the face on October 7th in terms of security and understanding the attack, but also a slap in the face of all the things we haven't been doing for years, and now we need to play catch up. But I think people are, currently it's more organizations doing and taking on this role of picking up the pace, and DIPLOACT is one of them. Israeli Response, Stand With Us, I can name them the whole list. We work together a lot of the times, all the organizations. But it's ultimately it's important that the government does support those organizations. I don't want to get into the whole politics of it, but it definitely needs to do more.
So the politics aside, if we think about the images that we're seeing on a lot of international news networks coming out of Gaza, it's putting Israeli forces on the defensive philosophically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Why are we it appears that it's not being properly responded to. I don't know if that's a question you guys can answer, but in your training and your discussion, is there a plan to really step that up?
I'm in a Bet Knesset, so I'm gonna keep myself from saying, gonna speak clean, but they're not doing anything, okay? On October 7th, I started the Israel Response on October 9th or 10th, and I got into meetings with the Sar HaChutz and the Chavrei Knesset and the heads of all the organizations you can imagine. I met everyone. Nothing is being done, okay? Nothing's being done by the government. There are many organizations, like Avi told us. I can also say that there was one conference that happened during, like a few months ago. It was the very first one. Everyone was like shocked that it happened because no one was dealing with this before. That even the Israeli Response, we didn't get any funding when I was in the army. The whole reason I took this upon myself was because I looked it up on Google and there was nothing. There was nothing that gives answers to questions about nothing. Let's say that's not Wikipedia or something like that, one of those websites. We didn't get any funding for the first ever project to answer anti-Israel claims. We're getting a little bit of funding now from Sochonot Yehudit, Histadrut Tzionit Olamit. You might know these organizations. They're kind of private, kind of not. And this is exactly, this is the first step of what I'm doing to help the Jewish communities, but the second step has to be the colleges in the US, in Canada, around the world. This is exactly, this is why we need you, okay? This is what we need you. They have a well-oiled machine that works extremely hard in colleges to convince everyone they're working. They're getting all those yellow signs, those orange signs of the light on their side, and this is going very, very bad. This is why this morning we were in a public school. We spoke to the high schoolers, Westmount, and they're not doing anything. No one is standing up. In Montreal, the situation is very tough. We met the amazing organizations there, Startup Nation. It's private people taking things into their own hands. and doing amazing things and standing up to those people and showing the narrative of the Jewish people in colleges. But we need the government of Israel. This has to be something we have to be together, we have to be strong. This needs to be a super high priority for the government. I'm not sure if they even realize it. It needs to be Hillel, as Avi said, they're not doing anything about it. They're not even, we met with Hillel, I met with the head of all the Hillels in America. They're not willing to take any stance with explaining or doing Israel advocacy. They're only a home for Jews, any stance. Okay, so the situation is very, very, very bad in this specific area. So this is the truth and we should know it, and this is why we need you guys to tell the students, the people, the Jewish people, or do whatever we possibly can to get it done.
I'll just say something quickly to that and then pass it on to you. I grew up idolizing and learning about heroes like Muhammad Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Terry Fox that stood up for crazy causes and to share awareness. And I hear kids in universities and in schools that their parents tell them like, oh yeah, my parents are afraid that I'll go to a pro-Israel protest. My parents, yeah, I don't know, like, stop encouraging people to keep their heads down. Yes, it may be dangerous, but the alternative is even worse. So it's important to obviously take precautions and pepper spray and whatever, but don't prevent people from becoming leaders and having an impact. Encourage it.
Yeah, I just want to add some insights from the military perspective. And yeah. So obviously, at this point, I think you're all aware that the media is not a clear lens to reality. Now, in the military perspective, I can tell that we have two variables that works against us in this field. So one is we're working with the truth, not lies. And so when you make up a claim against Israel, you want obviously Dover Tzahal, the spokesperson of the IDF, to respond. So the process where it has to respond is it actually needs to check and to get to the soldier in the end to make sure that this claim was made up or whatever. And this process takes time. And in this time, these claims go to everyone. They make their way to almost everyone. And it happened multiple times, also with pictures. Now, the second variable is that we're not the underdog right now. I mean, on the 7th of October, the media liked us. We had all the compassion from the world, but to be honest, I'd rather have my people safe and not be butchered, and the world hates us, as much as it's hard to say. But being the underdog brings the compassion.
I met with the head of all the Hillels in America. I mean, like when I say, I mean North of America and the US and South America, I met with him. Hillels, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Okay? Hillel is not willing to take any stance or anything, let's say, political. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have one. All right, do we have another one? Who was speaking? Sorry. No, well, people
No,
can
no,
hear you.
I'm good. He answered the question.
I know, but other people wanted to hear.
I know. they
The
can
question,
hear.
the question was, did we go to Hillel? Are we doing anything proactive with the Israeli response, with Israel advocacy in general? That was the question. And we're trying. We don't get any funding. All the private, let's say, organizations or startups today. There's no real organization in Israel that can take us or help us. Very, very few organizations like mine. I don't even want to say very few. It takes years until something happens.
So that's just in terms of the Hillel, and I think my point on apathy, I think, is a bit, they're reacting to hate. If it eventually gets to strong Jewish hatred, then maybe they'll respond. And I think that's where it needs to change, and that's where communities need to take action towards that. And in terms of the content that you mentioned, to just really answer that point specifically, the reacting is very important to all the fake stuff that we get accused of, and it takes a lot of time. But I have to also correct you in the fact that we are active in some of the content that we do, and it definitely needs to be more. Again, I mentioned starting my point in this content space there needs to be more. So that's where I encourage the IDF page has active stuff about explaining. So it's there. They have a video of this on their pages. Ultimately, the algorithm a lot of times doesn't show things, and it's important to also look for things. This is where it's really critical to have the research, and we're always trying to push. And I also speak from the point that in DIPLOACT, the girl mentioned that it's not my job to educate her. So it wasn't then. I wasn't on salary for that kind of stuff. Today I'm on salary at DIPLOACT. I'm actually a project manager there and a content manager. So I can tell you that it's very, very difficult to reach audiences, both with funding and also because just the algorithm is so diluted with hateful content. So another aspect of it is encouraging all generations that have access to all the different platforms to create content and to be active, to be able to increase our numbers, to have that content. Because another reason it doesn't reach you is just the sheer numbers of the algorithm addresses all humanity, not limited to Jewish audiences. So it's a lot harder to actually reach you and get that information. But that information does exist. Yes.
Hold one moment.
I'm wondering if you're taking any steps to promote that resource, which looks amazing, outside the Jewish community.
Yes, we are. What we're doing is, first of all, we're trying to get the word out there with, first of all, the Jewish community knowing. We're trying to educate the Jewish communities and societies. We don't have a lot of funding to do it, but we're trying to do our best. And I want to say another thing about what she asked. We have this thing, us Jewish people, we're very apologetic and let's not get into trouble, maybe not go and do that. What we're trying to do, we're trying to create, also in the Israeli response, a course and something for every Jewish person to know how to be non-apologetic, how to be strong with what we're saying, to say the right words and the right values. The anti-Israel people, they are very together, like they're very a fist, and they have those sayings which are all the same. We need to learn to use those sayings ourselves, like that the Israelis, we are the Jewish community, we're indigenous to our land. Hamas is using child soldiers. These are the key words that we need to learn how to use, and we need to teach all the Jewish communities in the world to use these sayings so we can be together. We have to be like a fist. They're doing an amazing job marketing it, PRing it, whatever. We're doing an awful job, and we're not coordinated doing so. So this is exactly what we're working on. We're doing it with very little resources.
Hi. First of all, like, I just graduated from Western, and everything you said about the organizations and whatnot, 1000% true from my experience as a student, like, to the point. I want to try your organization. It seems really good. And Jew Hatred has been amazing for me, like, really, really diligent. I just want to ask, like, because I'm really interested in your resource. It seems really thorough. I check Times of Israel and JPost. But every day I also check Apple News, and there's always different articles that pop up. Al Jazeera, CNN, The Guardian, sometimes National Post. But I'm just wondering, like, who's controlling this algorithm? How come we never see JPost, Times of Israel, Zionist articles are never popping up? You go on ChatGPT, it's always anti-Israel propaganda, and you have all of these resources, well-sourced, well-written, and none of it is popping up. Like, why are they all buried underneath all of these anti-Israel articles? It doesn't make sense.
So you can add a resource to the Israeli response that denies that the Jews control the media, because
Yes.
so I don't know how to answer that in terms of the algorithm. It's again, I don't want to say the numbers, but I really don't have a good response. And exactly what I'm doing right now is a technique sometimes people need to use as well, is I don't know, and looking it up and seeing it. And I'll do my best to learn about how the algorithm works and do that thorough investigation. And I mean that for general when it comes to Israel, that a lot of times you're not Wikipedia and you need to look it up, and it's fine to have that discourse in a Q&A or in a conversation with someone to say I don't know and have that humility and look it up. You have for Israel stuff, the Israeli response or other sources, but yeah, I personally don't know. I don't know if you want to.
Unfortunately, I do know. Okay, so algorithms is like, it's what I do, it's my job. So we have to understand the numbers, okay? There are 15.7 million Jews and many, many more Muslims and other people against us. So starting with only that, it's a very, very tough start, because the algorithms, they work with the more people go into Free Palestine and those things, then it's just more interesting and shows it more to people. But if we go on TikTok today, for example, you're not going to see anything about Taiwan. You're not going to see anything about genocide of, I don't even know how to pronounce their name, Urgis, yeah, I'm not sure. You're not going to see anything about Hong Kong. And you're not going to see anything about Israel, or not much, okay? They did like a test where they put up the same videos on Instagram and on TikTok, and they showed it, and it's an atrocity of numbers. Okay, so first of all, we have to understand the origin of the platforms and everything, and where we can give, like, if it was up to me, it's a tool, okay? It's a weapon. TikTok is a weapon. I wish it could be banned from America, North America, South America, anywhere you want, because it's used to get the society and everyone against us. It's not going to change the Chinese government. They control it. Same thing where it goes on Google. We have to understand the situation, and we have to understand that we need to find solutions for the fact that we're only not that many people, okay? And this is what I'm trying to do by myself. There are not so many organizations that do this. We're trying to make a big database with all the other organizations like DIPLOACT. Some of you guys know Camera on Campus. Some of you guys know Stand With Us. All of those, they help put information on our database. And new organizations can come up and automate those things all over Facebook, Instagram, other places. So we appear like we're more people. My friends, there's an organization called Commando Asbara. It's an amazing, each and every one of you can go on Commando Asbara and help out. They get information from our website, and they automate sending responses to other, they try to make us appear more people than we actually are, okay? That's the situation. We have to use that Jewish mind and find we find ways to overcome that we're not that many people, and understand that TikTok and other companies don't like us, and they want to get to their agendas by erasing us.
Thank you. So I'm going to say something now that's really going to upset everybody here, so I'm prefacing that. I'm a writer. My whole goal and purpose is to offend as many people as possible. So you should know that. I'm really warning you, so getting you ready. So 3 things I wanted to say. One, I don't understand how you're not getting funding, because Israel is the startup capital of the world. So that's confusing to me. It must have something to do with the marketing, with the branding, maybe like the Israeli response to like murder, torture, gang rapes, right? Say it for what it is. It's not like people are being harmed, people are being killed, people are being murdered. Innocent people being torn apart, shredded, blown apart into pieces. Like, it's very like kind of conservative in the way that things are being spoken about. Women are being like mistreated. Women are not being mistreated by Hamas. Women are being raped, gang raped, tortured, round the clock. People are not saying that. You say that about one situation here of a woman in Toronto, that happened, you'll have a march, like more than any of the marches by the pro-Palestinian groups. Hundreds of thousands of women will march. They want to make sure that that person, whoever the attacker was, is going to prison for like hundreds of thousands of years, even though it's not possible. So I think that you have to be more forthcoming in stating like what it is that this is a response to torture, rape, murder, and also to say like the Hamas is using child soldiers. That's all that I hear. Using them to do what? To kill you and your neighbor. Like, let's say it for what it is, and then maybe you'll get some steam behind you when you say like the main thing, the Iker. Okay? So I hope I didn't offend too many people.
We had I don't know where the question was there, but thank you for the feedback. So I actually learned business and entrepreneurship. And one answer potentially for investors that I would say to him is that there's no revenue in this. It's all heart-based. And that a lot of times doesn't, that's philanthropy. And it's harder to get to those because people already have their donations of where they donate, and this is a new thing. Obviously, the need is there. People see the need. So I think it's a matter of time. And if anyone's interested in donating.
Do you know how much time it takes for an NGO in Israel to get approved? So before October 7th, it was a few years, like 2 years. Now they can make it happen maybe in a few months. But to get the biggest NGOs now that deal with anti-Semitism and everything, they've been going on for like around 4 years, and only now they get something called Safe 46, which means they can get donations and it can be recognized by. Yeah, also outside of the country, of course, donations from individuals, and like you can get donations from individuals, but to be recognized for companies and for big organizations, you need this stuff. Again, I'm a private individual. This is something I did by myself. I did this with friends from the army. I did this with volunteers with nothing. I'm talking about the people who helped me make this are people who work in the intelligence unit. Each one is paid a lot of money in their job. I work for MasterCard. I'm an engineer. They get paid a lot of money. So we put millions of shekels into this in just our time. Okay, we've been working on it for months. Yeah.
I saw another question there, and then the mic's next. Cool.
Hi there. So first of all, I want to say the most obvious thing. Thank you to the three of you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. Serving Israel in the reserves, and obviously for your role at DIPLOACT. When I first heard about this event, and by the way, there were about 5 or 6 events happening in the city tonight, so I think there would have been a much bigger turnout had obviously those other events not been happening. But the reason why I chose to come to this one was because you're being advocates for Israel, and I think everyone wants to be. Even, many people, unfortunately, many people woke up on October 7th, Jews around the world, and perhaps there is still that apathy, but even those that want to make a difference don't know how. And I think what you were addressing, and kol hakavod, within a few days for being able to put up that website, I think people are looking for credible information that they can share online. So I think the fact that you're doing that, that's what we need to get out there. And I think at the end of the day, people need training and people need tools. And if Diplomat can start scaling what you're doing, not only with people like yourself in Israel, but with students around the world, then I think you're really onto something that we can scale. So I think, you can't be in different rooms all around the world. It's a starting point. But if we really want to scale this, if you can create the resources, the tools, the training, online that can go viral and we can share with the organizations. There's so many amazing organizations, but everyone's looking for good content, for training, for tools. And if you can do that, then I think we can really get somewhere.
So, coming soon to theaters near you.
So one thing did come out from sitting with the head of Hillel's and the Sochnut Jewish Agency. This platform is going to be distributed to 400 locations of the Jewish Agency in America and North America and South America, all over the place, all over the world. Masa, you guys probably heard of Masa, so 12,000 students. They're going to be introduced to this platform, I hope, sometime in the next month or two. We have so many tools. We have a development team working on it and changing stuff and developing things all the time. We have so many sharing options, all social media platforms, and even copying links and sending it to friends and everything. So yeah, there are things planned. And we're working on it. We need volunteers. I'm trying to get it into college students. I need people. All of the people, we have a content team of 7 people working on it and writing content and adding images and videos to the website. And they're all people who went through courses and education about how to do Israel advocacy. And we need people who know their stuff to volunteer and add more information to this website. It's very easy. All of you can do it. You can go on the website right now, write a claim and a response. Our people will go over it. They will change it, take it from raw data into actual claims. We need help. We do.
I don't know who has the mic, but... Oh, okay. %. Influencer marketing is a huge call. And there's also an organization, I forget the name of it, so they'll have to forgive me for it, but there's an organization that is in charge of bringing influencers to Israel to share the Israeli narrative and whatnot. So I actually went to a talk where they had Michael Rappaport and they had a Q&A, etc. Definitely a great idea. And we actually met on the delegation. So we have homework afterwards to match up our resources, and if anyone has resources to get to these people, 100% agree. I don't know if you want to add to that, but I mean, yeah, influencer marketing is a great technique.
We tried.
Someone has the mic already. I didn't realize.
Hi. I have a question. I wonder if you have any advice for those of us. Oh, I wonder if you have any advice for those of us who work in communities that are majority very proudly anti-Israel. Like, you know, it's quite scary to post these things. Like for those of us who would like to share information, you know, like on social media, when the majority of your community that you're in is, you know, there could be backlash towards you, like in your career, and like you could be blacklisted and not get work if people don't like what you're saying. So do you have any advice on like how do you speak up when this is the kind of like community someone's in?
Very, very good question. Unfortunately, a very real, like reality for a lot of people. I'll start by saying that every soldier doesn't like the fact that he has to draft when he's 18, but he has to. And every soldier doesn't like the fact that he is now in reserves and fighting in Gaza or fighting in the north. And it's been taking us out of our regular day lives. And we're essentially on that fight. So I'll start by saying that you're not the only one. So take reassurance in that this fight, the fact that it sucks, it's an unfortunate fact that it sucks, but it's a fight that you have to have that train of thought of the alternative of it getting further. And if you want to be part of the positive side of telling the reality or staying alive until it gets to that terrible point. Now, this is a harsh response to that specific point, saying, and I'll share it. You know, one of the students that I had ask a question in my last talk. He told me that he's not openly Jewish at his workplace, and he hides the fact that he's Jewish. He seemed like a really sweet guy, and as he's telling me this, I'm like torn. The fact that he can't walk around with a Magen David and even tell people that he's Jewish. And I told him, like, look, you seem like a really nice guy. These terrible things that people are talking about of Jews, if they maybe knew you were Jewish and that you're a nice guy, maybe you're part of the change. And you're part of the correction here of making that happen. Because there's so much media out there with hateful stuff. I go back to the 3 points that I have, is patience, knowledge, and kindness. And a big aspect of that is what we learn in Commander's course, is dugma ishit, a personal example, leading by example. And I think that's a big aspect of it, of understanding that the alternative future, worst case scenario of the world turning into hateful Nazi Germany mentality is possible with the reality that we're seeing today. If you're not using your kindness and your individuality of representing the positive side and the goodness of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation, you're adding to our silence. So as hard as it may be that you might get canceled and you might not have a career or whatever, in 5 years you might not have a home if we continue that route. So the alternative is much worse, and I hate to paint a terrible picture, but that's my personal opinion. It's worth the risk to take to not have to work at that organization anymore, because they're anti-Semitics, and you should not be working at an anti-Semitic place at the end of the day if that's the case, that you get hated on or whatever. It's find a place that actually accepts you for the good person that you are. Because ultimately, look, when I speak about Israel and the values that I stand for, I know my knowledge base and I know my values that I stand on. If you know the values that the Jewish people stand on and the identity, if you are fully connected with your identity as a Jew, then you have nothing to fear. Because we have the most incredible people and we're a light among the nations. And that's not just a code that we say, it's a reality. Look at all the Nobel Prizes, look at all the amazing things we do as a people. And it's important to have that pride of being Jewish and not being ashamed of it. So, sorry to tell you, but start finding a different job if that's the case, a different workplace. And it's as harsh as I can say it, but but be that light of who the Jewish people are. And obviously it's easier said than done because it's a much more complex reality at the end of the day. But I mean, that's my personal take on it.
Okay, so my stance is a bit different. Okay, so I'm working on the Israeli response now, but my dream, like my end goal, what I want to get done is I wish there was an organization that was the head of all the colleges in the world, whatever, in America, North America, South America, and it was in charge of having, let's say, one person like us in every college to lift the Jews up and be a strong stance and get those Jews to be together in colleges and be like a resistance in every college of Israel advocacy and to show the Israeli narrative for everyone. This is what I want to get done. I'm trying to speak with anyone who I can. It's really tough. This requires a lot of funding. It's a different organization. For now, it's not going to happen. This means we need one very strong person. You were talking about colleges, right? Colleges, students in general.
She was talking about work.
About what? Workplaces.
And like the arts community in general, like artists in general, like I can't leave that. That's what I do.
So I believe the education starts in like colleges, and that's how the well-oiled machine works for the anti-Israelis. They do that, and they do an amazing job in all the colleges. That's how they educate the American people, the Canadian people, everyone worldwide. Until that happens, we met with some incredible people who were very strong, someone who was very strong, and can take that in every college and create the Jewish communities and make people that kind of sound like you sounded, non-apologetic, and take the stance and make us be united and together in every college. I really believe that's what we need to educate, to give the Israeli narrative, and to get everything balanced right now in workplaces and those your own diplomat.
I'll just add another point. Like, take advantage of the fact that you're in a democracy. We were at a talk in Montreal that protesters didn't want us to come speak. They prevented people from going into. We were in the news, so I don't know if you actually saw it. But the protest a couple of days ago in Montreal, that was us. We were having the same talk with. It was supposed to be at Concordia University, and Concordia canceled us. They didn't allow us to have the talk. They prevented students from actually going to the talk and pro-Palestinian protesters. Yeah, and we're taking the law in our hands. Tomorrow I have meetings with lawyers to sue Concordia. So, and I don't really, ultimately it's to make a stance. The fact that the values that they're fighting for in like the Palestinian, like Gaza, there's the LGBTQ community for Palestine is chickens for KFC, and it's the same idea for you are in a democracy, so any discrimination that you have, Jews are doctors and lawyers, so use a good Jewish lawyer in the arts community, because we also apparently control Hollywood. It's using our tools and our actual strength against the system. So you might have to endure some racism and some anti-Semitic claims, but then get your colleagues that are hateful individuals fired by using the fact that you're in a democracy and in a place that you should be living freely. There were arrests today at the Beit from the protests. I was reading right before while I was gathering. There were arrests today. So use the fact that you are in a free country in your favor and be unapologetic and say that you're Jewish, because you have a freedom to say that. You have a right to say that and live proudly and wear your Magen David and wear the fact that we should free our hostages. It's crazy to me that you can't feel safe walking around with a Magen David. It's crazy to me. I used to live here, and Ali can attest to this. I was a proud Jew at Earl Hague, and I was considered the rabbi on campus. I started the Jewish Student Union, and I spoke with NCSY. Now, the Jewish Student Union at Earl Hague is still running, but they told me that it's been having the most problems, and it breaks my heart because of the very Persian community at Earl Hague. But it breaks my heart that Jewish kids at my old high school can't be proud and strong Jews. And our leadership at our high school, the student council was, I don't know, 80% Jewish leaders. So we're leaders. We're a light among the nation, and it's important to be proud about it and to show it and use the fact that we're in a free country to defend yourselves.
Sorry, can I just ask one question, just expanding on that? So exactly like she said in the workforce, my daughter's actually looking for an internship this summer. She's going on birthright. She doesn't want to go to Onward because she doesn't want it to be on her resume. And she went to a networking event last night at TMU. For the first time, she hit her Magen David, and she's a very proud Jew. What do you say to students who are now going to look for jobs? Never mind being in the workforce, you're going to say the same thing? That they must just, it's not easy. What do they do? Being a Jew is not very easy obviously in Israel, like you say, what about the soldiers? But in reality, when they're going out now to look for jobs, what can they do?
That's one solution. And another. Look, again, I'll tell you. I want to be proud about who I am. Forget Judaism aside. I want to be able to be full in my own identity of who I am, and find the way to prove that discrimination. If there is such discrimination in the. And I don't know, but we have some great lawyers in the Jewish community. If there is discrimination against the fact that someone went to birthright and went to different things, let's build a case and send an email to CIJA and build a case against it.
Okay, so I'll come this way. Okay. Just to go back to the questions about Judaism and being in the workplace, there are a lot of law firms that are not hiring a lot of the students that have signed open letters advocating for Hamas and the Palestinians, okay? And a lot of that work was done by End Jew Hatred and the Lawfare Project. So that's... Okay, thanks. I will tell you that there are a ton of grassroots advocates, several in this front row, that work around the clock to ensure that the students and your fellow colleagues and you have a safe space to be. I will tell you that we're already suing Concordia, so we can talk. If there is anything that you're experiencing, whether it's in the workplace or it's students, the Lawfare Project was started by Brooke Goldstein, okay? In case you don't know who she is, she's a native Torontonian. She moved to New York to practice law. She made Aliyah not too long ago. And I think it's worth noting that we have over 600 different lawyers around the world, Jewish lawyers that are fighting for Jewish civil rights. And that is not because they're getting their regular pay to do so. It's because they want to help all of you. So if there is something that's going on, please reach out. I think it's really important to note that while we want Israel to step up and do more when it comes to their PR, we also can't wait on Israel to do what we need them to do. We have our own faults with our own governments here, and we really need to put pressure on organizations that have a lot of the community's funding to really put that to good work, in my opinion.
We're here to keep answering questions, even in mingling format. but please do not, you're not offending us if you guys need to go. So I want to give an open, and
There's coffee and some treats in the atrium, so if you'd like to stay and mingle a bit or ask some additional questions, we're all going to be hanging out there. Okay? And thank you so much for making the time to be here tonight.
Like Golda Meir said, we have nowhere else to go, so yeah, if you go.